Everyone ignored the Japanese billionaire. Until the waitress spoke to him in Japanese, they said the man looked ordinary. They said his gray sweater was cheap. They said his shoes looked used and his posture was quiet, invisible, forgettable. But they didn't know who he was, not yet. The world had no idea that the small, silent man sitting near the window of the Sunny Corner Cafe was worth more than the entire building, the entire street, and most of the companies within 5 blocks. They didn't know the price of his watch could buy 10 new cars. They had no idea that the quiet, tired-eyed Japanese man sitting alone with a soft expression was Junpei Takashiro, a billionaire whose companies silently supplied batteries, components, logistics, and microfactories to half the world's top brands. And yet, in that cafe, in that slice of 11:42 a.m. daylight, inside a city far from his homeland of Tokyo, everyone treated him like he was nobody. If you believe that kindness, humanity, and second chances still matter in this world, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Touch of Kindness Stories, because your support keeps these real emotional stories reaching more hearts. Junpei liked to travel quietly and alone. He never announced who he was. He always tested the world, not for money, but for how people treated someone who, in other people's eyes, didn't seem to have any value. This was his own private habit, something he had done since he was 19. Too many people treated him warmly only after learning his net worth, and those moments always broke him. He hated fake smiles more than insults. So he dressed simply today. He wore no luxury jacket, no external security. His driver wasn't even inside. He had insisted the car wait 4 blocks away. He wanted to feel like a normal person, just for once. The cafe was busy. People laughed loudly. The sun washed through the windows in bright stripes over the polished wood tables. Aroma of fresh pastries floated in the air. But as soon as Junpei walked in, he felt the dismissive eyes. A man in a leather coat saw him waiting for a table, but quickly walked in front of him and grabbed the booth first. Another group laughed past him and bumped his shoulder slightly, not even saying sorry. The cashier didn't even greet him warmly. She just pointed to a seat and said, "Over there. Menus online." No smile. No welcome. Junpei quietly sat alone, near the window, absorbing the casual carelessness of a world that judges by appearance. He slowly folded his hands, stared at his reflection in the glass, and wondered about something that had always haunted him. That maybe in all his money and power, he had become invisible to sincere kindness. No one approached him. No one cared to ask where he came from. The cafe buzzed around him like he didn't exist. Minutes passed. He could understand English quite well, but he barely spoke it. Every time he tried, people interrupted him, talked over him, or judged his accent as slow or strange. It was easier for him to stay silent. The server with loud, bright lipstick rolled her eyes slightly while dropping his glass of water on the table. "You ready to order?" she asked with impatience. Junpei tried to speak. "Can I?" he began, softly, but she cut him off with a frustrated sigh. "Just point. I don't have time." Her tone was sharp, cold, uncaring. She thought he was slow or strange. She thought he couldn't understand. He quietly pointed to a breakfast plate with eggs and salmon. She scribbled it, shrugged, and left. He bowed his head respectfully, a habit he couldn't erase, but she didn't even see. Junpei sat quietly. He had been insulted by CEOs, competitors, media before. But this, being dismissed not as a rival, but as someone unimportant, always hurt more. Because this was the raw truth of society. If you didn't look wealthy, you were no one. He watched sunlight move across the table. He wondered if anyone in the world still treated strangers with heart. Not because they looked rich, but because they were human. That was when she arrived. A young waitress, with tired eyes, hair tied loosely, apron slightly worn, carrying a tray with 2 desserts. Her name tag read Mira. She moved carefully, delivering pastries to other customers, smiling gently even when her hands trembled from exhaustion. Then she returned to the counter, took his plate from the kitchen, and approached his table quietly. She placed his meal down with care, not with noise, not with force. But something caught her eye. She saw the small kanji engraved on his phone. Her eyes widened. Then gently, she whispered the softest, most respectful greeting in Japanese. "Konnichiwa. Ojenki desu ka." Good afternoon. How are you? Junpei froze. No one here had spoken his language in months. Slowly, cautiously, he lifted his gaze. Mira stood there, smiling softly. Not fake, not mocking, but sincere. He swallowed hard, emotion rising unexpectedly from the center of his chest. She continued, still in Japanese, with pure respectful tone. "If you need anything, you can tell me. I can speak a little Japanese. I studied it at university. I used to dream of visiting Kyoto someday." Junpei's eyes glassed instantly. Her voice was not loud, not attention-seeking, not forced. It was gentle. Human. It was the kind of tone spoken to someone who mattered, even if the world did not see it. For the first time in hours, Junpei spoke, quietly, in his mother tongue. "Thank you. You are very kind." Myra's eyes softened. She responded with humility, bowing her head slightly, something almost no one in this country ever did, but she respected his culture. "You're welcome. Please enjoy your meal. If anyone treats you badly, I am here." He nodded slowly, feeling his throat tighten. He wasn't used to this sincerity. Mira walked away, but she didn't walk away with indifference. She walked away with dignity. She didn't know who he was. She didn't care about his money. She just cared that he felt seen. For the first time in months, Junpei ate with calm heart. The salmon reminded him faintly of home, of small Tokyo restaurants he used to eat in when he was a teenager, long before his empire grew. Long before his phone never stopped ringing. As he finished his food, he noticed Mira wiping tables, speaking kindly to new customers, bringing extra napkins for an elderly couple, helping a child clean spilled juice, all with the same patient gentleness. She didn't have the easiest life, that was obvious. Her shoes were worn from long shifts, her steps slightly limping from exhaustion, her eyes carrying a quiet story of sacrifice. When his time came to pay, the cashier barely looked up. She just shoved the receipt toward him. But Junpei did not pay there. That he spoke to Mira again, in Japanese, asking if he could speak to the cafe manager. She didn't know why, but she nodded and led him gently. Junpei asked the manager softly, again in broken English this time, if he could have 20 minutes in private with Mira. The manager allowed it. In the quiet corner, sun shining through the window onto both of them. Junpei finally revealed what he had hidden. He pulled out his card, the one with only 2 words, Takashiro Group. Mira blinked, confused. She had heard the name somewhere. Suddenly, she searched her memory. It hit her. Takashiro Group was one of Japan's quiet giant companies. Billion-dollar level. Found in every manufacturing chain. Found in every global tech expo. She gasped softly. Junpei smiled gently. Yes, he said. I am CEO. But you spoke to me as if I was human, before you knew. Her breath trembled. That he reached into his small travel bag and handed her an embossed envelope, sealed in gold. This is invitation, he said. I want you to be guest of honor at our upcoming Osaka Foundation event. We honor kindness. We honor humanity. You reminded me that kindness exists without price tag. Her hands shook as she opened the envelope. Inside, a first-class flight ticket to Japan, hotel included, and a VIP invitation card. Mira couldn't speak. Tears filled her eyes, because she never imagined some small kindness she gave in a simple cafe during a warm day would be noticed like this. Junpei bowed deeply, deeper than anyone had ever bowed to her, because to him, in that moment, she represented something infinitely more valuable than business. She represented proof that the world still had genuine hearts. He placed his hand over his heart and whispered softly, in Japanese, "You saw me before my wealth. And for that, I will never forget." Then he left quietly, without fanfare, without media, just with gratitude. When the door closed behind him, the entire cafe buzzed in shock, because the manager, after confirming the truth, announced to everyone who the man really was. And suddenly all those who ignored him felt the sting of shame. But the moment was not his. The moment was Myra's. She stood quietly by the window, holding the golden envelope to her chest, feeling warmth in her soul that money could never buy, because she had no idea her simple choice, to speak to a stranger in his own language, would become a turning point in her life. If this story touched your heart in any way, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Touch of Kindness Stories, so more people around the world can feel inspired too. Before the ending, here is your special request line to comment. Please comment below. Kindness still matters. If you believe humanity is priceless. In the following weeks, the story spread silently, not as trending news, not as a viral hashtag, but whispered in quiet business circles. Top investors heard about it. Executives questioned their values. And inside Tokyo, in the heart of Takashiro Group headquarters, a portrait was placed near the foundation wing. A portrait of kindness, not of Mira, but of a moment. Of a waitress who didn't judge. Of a billionaire who didn't expect to be seen. And of a world where sometimes the richest souls are the ones who simply pause, notice a stranger, and decide to speak. Not for status, not for gain, but simply for humanity. And in that portrait, under the warm white museum-style lighting, one small, engraved line was written in both English and Japanese. Kindness recognizes the soul, not the bank account. And that is how one simple greeting changed 2 lives forever.